Well, thank you, everybody, and thanks for being here today. I am Erin Callaghan, the President of Enterprise Partnerships at Futuri Media, and I'm excited to have a conversation about getting more local with our content in our radio stations. A couple of quick notes about Futuri Media. We are a software as a service company that's in its 16th year, which, if you know anything about SaaS companies, is a lifetime, and here's why. Most SaaS companies start off with two guys in mom's basement, and they run out of money after a couple of years. So the fact that we're still here 16 years later, I think, is a testament to the fact that we really love broadcast. I do like to share the disclaimer that our CEO, Daniel Anstandig, actually got in trouble with our federal government when he was 12 because his little bedroom radio station was interfering with the local television station, and he was really easy to find because he was giving out his home telephone number as the all request line. But the reason that I share that story is that he, like so many of us at Futuri, love this business that we're in. So our full portfolio includes a number of things. First of all, we have content surfacing tools to keep stations local. We have automated on-demand audio. We have AI voices. We have streaming and mobile apps. We have Tether for localized audience-controlled interaction. We have life-saving AI with Beacon, and we have audiobooks. But virtually everything that we do at Futuri is about keeping our stations local, and it's more critical than ever because, folks, we are in the fight of our lives right now. Now, I'm not going to break any new ground today by telling you that people have a lot of places that they can go for their content and entertainment, and it gets more congested every single year. We know in our guts, in our hearts, that the way to be most connected with our audiences is to be live and local. But just so that I'm not just saying it with confidence, I actually have some backup on this. Jacobs Media found that nearly 90% of listeners say being local is one of the most important parts about radio. They also found that people have a growing expectation and appreciation for the importance of radio's local capabilities. Local impacts ratings as well. Nielsen found that a focus on local and community content boosted listening more than 10% over stations that were just feeding national content. Another study found that more than 70% of regular radio listeners found local weather, traffic, and news to be very important. And it even benefits advertisers. Radio Advertising Bureau found, on average, a 9% lift in advertising recall rates on stations that are community-focused. One other thought. The money being spent on influencers is growing every year. Why? Because they're talking about the things that their audiences care about. So stateside, by the way, the top 10 content creators for the influencer category have bigger audiences than radio and television stations. So we know the stats. We know in our guts that being local and live is our best path to success. In my heart, I know everybody in this room believes that. I think 90% of the audience, or of the industry rather, really believes that. So what gets in the way of us being live and local? For some, it's an aversion to risk-taking. We don't want to admit that we can't keep spinning all of those plates. We don't want to ask for help. By the way, if we do ask for help, the boss might remember that we still work here and forgot to fire us. Okay, I'm being a little facetious, but I think that's a real fear out there. Another piece of it is complacency. I do hear from time to time people that are just trying to ride this thing out to retirement, although that does get harder to do every year. But what I really think, more often than not, is it's a function of reduced headcount. Shrinking staffs put an enormous pressure on the people that remain. And as a result, it seems that in most of our daily lives, we are 90% process and 10% creativity. I don't know if we can flip that script entirely, but if we could use AI and technology to free up the boring and the rote procedures that we do, we could maybe get to even just 50-50 process and creativity. And if we did that, we'd have happier staffs, we'd have better output, and that's what we're trying to accomplish with our technology. the more your teams can use AI and technology to free up those human hours so that you can dedicate the human hours to local and creative and exceptional content, the better your bottom line and your top line will be. I'm going to share a variety of ways today that you can use technology to help you achieve this very goal. But whether it's our resources or somebody else's, I simply beg of you, find the resources to be live and local. We cannot afford a single throwaway hour on our radio stations, not when we're fighting for attention every year. The good news is we're already using AI whether we know it or not. I don't even think of half of the things on this slide as being AI because they've been part of my life for seemingly forever. And our CEO, Daniel Standig, addressed this very topic last year with Amica. So I'll play just a short clip for you of that.
You've actually been walking around with AI since way before ChatGPT. In fact, ChatGPT may have just brought it into our consciousness, but we've really been using AI for many, many years. We recently did a study.
Excuse me, Daniel, what are you doing?
Pardon me, Amica?
I thought I was here to talk about the research and data points. We agreed that we would each have a very clear role in this human-tech collaboration, and you're already doing my job. Honestly, this has been my greatest fear, the day that humans will rise up and take jobs away from AI.
So here's the thing, when we can automate the predictable through the use of AI, we can humanize the exceptional. So let's talk about putting this to use. And I'd like to start with talent and social media and digital platforms because they really work together. Now, content workflow will vary based on if you're an independent organization or a larger corporation. If you do have a dedicated content team, their workflow is likely dedicated to going to lots of different sites throughout the day, trying to figure out what's going to resonate with their audiences. The amount of time is going to vary based on how much content they're generating and if they're generating specific content for different sites. If you don't have a local team, content generation is probably falling to your local talent, and that's really only happening in between their 15 other jobs that they're trying to accomplish. Video is critically important, especially for audience engagement. Now, if you're lucky enough to have a videographer on staff, by the time they produce and edit materials, they might get 3 to 5 really good videos up per week. And if you don't have a videographer, you're probably relegated to linking things from YouTube, in which case you're giving away your impressions and you're hoping that somebody isn't linking content that is copyrighted. This is a study that was done last year, but it also supports what we found in a Smith-Geiger study. And although it talks specifically about journalists, the struggle is really the same for content creators, whether they are journalists or digital or website or local talent. First of all, they're struggling with changing audience behaviors. Audiences are going to a lot of different locations. They also have fewer people and resources. They're competing with influencers, which is maddening because radio was the original influencers. And they're avoiding fake news. Really, journalists, content creators, and local on-air talent are faced with the struggle of finding the time to create good content that resonates with their local audiences. And the biggest challenge that they faced, by the way, fewer resources in the midst of downsizing, which might sound a little bit familiar to some in this room. Frequently, when I meet with staffs, I hear that 10 years ago, they had 100 people on staff, and today, they have 15. But those 15 people are still expected to create the workload of the 100 people. It's enormous pressure. Where that's especially dangerous for our industry is that audiences expect more content than ever before at the exact moment that we have fewer people to create that content. But why does that even matter to us? Well, from our Smith-Geiger study again, and it's really no surprise, social media remains the primary source for consuming news and information. We simply have to be there. We must be multi-platform to engage our audiences. And YouTube is an absolute must for that, because it's the best opportunity to engage your audience. This is great for brand discovery, for recycling audiences back to your live product, and simply being where your audiences are. Now, I'm going to share some ways that Futuri technology can help with this and help you reclaim time through efficiency that you can funnel into being more live and local. But whether it's our resources or something else that you find, it is vital to connect locally with your audiences. So Topic Pulse aggregates content from hundreds of thousands of news sources, and it combines it with social media shares, often hundreds of millions of social media shares coming from X and Facebook and Instagram. It updates in real time to let you know in your specific market, what does your audience care about by age, region, gender, and topic. Now, we also update it every 2 minutes, so it's always fresh and you always know what matters to your audience. We localize everything that we do. We customize it so that if you want your local market, if you want entertainment or sports or format-specific information, the main goal here is always being topical with your audience. Last year, Topic Pulse detected over 31 million social trends to help our audiences be in touch with their audiences and be hyper-locally relevant. So imagine, if you would, that somebody had chosen this particular story. First, they would see that it's trending with adults between the ages of 25 and 34. You'd also see a summary of that story, as well as when it started to trend, the social engagement, which is based on true engagement, not just passive scrolling through. You would see the trajectory of the growth of that. Is it still relevant to my audience right now if it started trending 4 hours ago? In this case, you see an idea starter. That's our content creators writing content for you that you can copy and paste. And you see the sources that are driving this story, but newest to Topic Pulse are story angles. This is AI reading all of the news sources, telling you what all of the angles are that are being covered right now, and then it's giving you story angles that are not being covered. So let's say the breakfast show talked about this very topic earlier today, but you see that it's still engaging with your audience. This might be the opportunity for somebody later in the day to talk about this topic from a different angle. A lot of our TV partners and our digital publishers also say, I need to differentiate from my competitors that are out there. If you see a topic that's trending, you can choose a different angle of that topic to differentiate so that you're still on point, but you're talking about it slightly differently. By the way, this is also something that pays off in the ratings. And this is a little bit of a dated study, but what this showed us through Nielsen Discovery was stations using Topic Pulse had 200% larger AQH engagement and 2 times ratings because they were talking about what the audiences care about in real time. Social media can be a powerful place to bring audiences back to your live content. And so for every one of the hundreds of stories that flow through Topic Pulse every day, AI creates automatic short stories, talking points, and social posts. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that Maria and Stathis had seen this particular story about Coldplay last week. AI would have automatically generated a first draft of that particular post. Then they could put that on social media, drawing the audience back to the conversation. So starting with a headline or a short descriptor of what that conversation was, but then maybe turning it into a poll. Tune back in when we're going to ask you, what's your favorite Coldplay song? Or who would you rather see headlining the World Cup series? It's a way for you to use social media and bring people back. And we have clients that tell us they get a 50% lift on their social media engagement by choosing the stories that matter most to their audiences in real time. Video is a must for every brand, and Topic Pulse's Instant Video makes it very easy. Instant Video produces dozens of branded content that you can use every single week. We provide the licensed images, we provide the captioning. You can brand it to your logos. You can create video pre-roll with your clients and add their logos to it as well. But now If you don't have a videographer, this becomes your video source. And if you do, this increases the amount of content that you can put out. So all of those images licensed so that you don't have to worry about any of that. You can also create your own original content using instant video as well. We have a partner stateside that creates This Week in Classic Rock History, and they push it out to Facebook and to X and on their website. And it's a piece that you could put on social media or on your website or YouTube so that you can be generating engagement. Sponsors. Gotta have sponsors, right? Drive the revenue. So the more local you are, the more it pays off in ratings and engagement. Picking the right content, the best content for your websites can increase page views and sponsorship opportunities. We have clients, by the way, that are telling us they get 3.5 days worth of additional page views every month because they tag their Topic Pulse content to see what is feeding the engagement. Creating video that matches your brand can actually engage the audience on YouTube for discovery and other social media platforms and create sponsorship opportunities. And you can create show promos, concert announcements, other dynamic video content to promote your brands on social and YouTube. So if you don't have a massive marketing budget, suddenly social media and YouTube become your marketing budget. It is shocking to me the thousands of hours of content that our industry produces every week that evaporates into the ether. On-demand audio is such an amazing opportunity for all of us. Now, you've all seen this slide or a slide like it before, but radio is a frequency medium, so let this be the reminder that our audiences are not jumping out of bed in the morning, turning on the radio, and spending the day with us. With so many choices, we have got to be everywhere that our audiences are. So here's more response from our Smith-Geiger study, showing that people, most people, in fact 90% of people, listen to podcasts on a weekly basis. And nearly 2/3 of them are listening for news and information. This is such a huge opportunity for radio, but not everybody takes full advantage of it, and here's why. It can be time-consuming to create time-shifted audio. By the time you wait for the audio to be available, you download the audio, you pull out the commercials and the music, you stitch everything together, you reformat it for all the places that you want it to go, and then you upload it. That can take hours and hours of time just for a single breakfast show. And in many cases, when you are doing that, it only gets to Facebook and to your website. So what we find is that our system can save you as many as 10 hours a week by automating this entire process for you. And by the way, it's so important to get the content out swiftly, especially if you're a breakfast show or you're talking about snackable, shareable content. The speed of social moves so quickly that if it's multiple hours after your breakfast show that you get your content up, something else more interesting has probably already come along. So with our Post platform, Post is an actual transmitter that captures all of your metadata, all of your mic open and closes, and it segments it and labels it for you. You can edit together an entire show without the music and commercials by simply choosing the talk breaks, and in a matter of seconds, it's already created for you. What we love to do, by the way, also is snackable, shareable content. So let's say that Chris Hemsworth says something amazing, like he does every day, I'm sure. You can simply talk about that event, attach a licensed image, and it's ready to go for social. But where the real magic happens is automation. Now with our fully automated platform, you can choose hour by hour, full show replays, benchmark features, simply by setting up the parameters in the background. You determine where or what you want to send out, you attach the images to it that you want to go with it, create descriptions, choose all of the distribution points, and now you can do one of two things. You can save this as a project that you want to check on after the show just to make sure that you love it, Or once you've done the Reagan model of trust but verify and you see that it's working properly, just automate it and go on and live your best life. This is the kind of snackable, shareable content that can promote features and use social media to recycle your audience back to the live show. So Break Up with Kenny Jensen becomes a snackable, shareable content piece that redirects people back to the station. Plus, you can sponsor it with the descriptor. So in this particular case, you can use Elite Plastic Surgery, also good at finding and fixing mistakes. So always good when you're attaching something that is brand relevant. There's a ratings play with this as well. This example comes from one of our partners in New York City. And look at the ratings jump that they had after just 1 month of disciplined, and that was the key, disciplined time-shifted audio. Now, stateside, you've got encoded audio that feeds into Nielsen ratings, and that's why we knew that this had the impact that it did. But those 428,000 social engagements, if you just had a fraction of that, imagine what that could do for engagement, for brand discovery, for recycling back to your live environment. So if your producers reclaimed just 10 hours a week by automating breakfast shows and other time-shifted content, they could create snackable, shareable segments for Facebook and X and Instagram and other places. Again, so perfect for brand discovery and recycling the audience back to the station. This is one of our partners in Dallas, Texas, called The Ticket. All day long, they are posting this snackable, shareable content. And actually, where there's the best use case is when clients use Topic Pulse and post together. Topic Pulse to determine what matters right now to my audience, say it live on air, grab that audio in real time, affix a licensed image, put it out to your social media platforms, and now you become part of the conversation as it's unfolding. Also means you have the opportunity to catch the shares on the way up. Post can also convert any segment into basic video with just the click of a button. So now all of that content that you're putting on social media can benefit from the lift that you get from video without actually having to produce video. So this is how one of these direct exports could look on social media.
100 episodes of Joe Rogan's podcast have disappeared from Spotify. 100 episodes.
So it's the licensed image with just that basic waveform file. But you can then also directly, automatically post this to YouTube. And we did that because we know how vital it is to use YouTube for brand discovery. Reclaimed time can also be devoted to original podcasts. So if your producers had some of their time freed up, they could create original content that again could be sponsorable. One of our clients created this local sponsorship featuring Post.
Every day we like to bring you a little bit of good news by recognizing a community hero, someone working on the front lines, surpassing expectations and extending generosity to others. Today's community heroes are the owners of Kurth Auto in New Hope, Minnesota.
So original content, including a client sponsor. And advertorials can generate a whole new revenue stream that doesn't have to break format and can be showcasing your clients in a variety of places. So it could be posted to your social media accounts or just send it to the client website or their social media accounts.
The level of athletes that you two have worked with is very different from a quote-unquote typical profile client.
Folks, I'll say it again. We cannot afford a single wasted hour on our radio stations. And that could be that I don't have any voices at all, but it could also apply to voice tracking. And there's a story that literally haunts me years later that I heard the day that Gordon Lightfoot passed away. A fairly sizable radio group stateside called all of their, or sent an email out to all of their AC programmers and said, pull all of the Gordon Lightfoot music, because they had all voice tracked. And they didn't want a Gordon Lightfoot song playing without noting that he had passed away. Similarly, when Jimmy Buffett passed away, it was late on a Friday night. How many of our stations were live and local that next Saturday morning to talk about it? This is where using AI voices to bring more life into your radio station can be critical. Now, first of all, a lot of people that were surveyed in our Smith-Geiger study said that they already believe that AI voices are on the radio. So this is not a leap for our audiences to have AI voices. The important thing is to disclose that it's AI. Whether you say AI Ashley, or you run a disclaimer a couple of times an hour or even day part, just like with your contest rule saying, portions of this show are generated by AI, the bottom line is the audience just doesn't want to be fooled. Keep in mind that Spotify announced its AI DJ the exact same day that Futuri announced our audio AI solution. They were clearly signaling that they have no problem using AI voices to come after our lunch money. So if you have hours of your station that are just doing music and service elements, you may have some very stiff competition in the future from platforms like this. Now, Futuri's audio AI is fully automated. It works with your automation system. So RCS, Zeta, platforms like that, we've got friends from RCS here today. It fully integrates with your automation system. Now, it uses Topic Pulse to determine exactly what is trending with your station in your market at that exact moment in time. We can also use RSS feeds for local weather and other content as well. Then our large language models automatically script that content, AI automatically voices that content, and then it automatically sends it to your automation system. Last year, Audio AI created over 2 million voice tracks to help our partners be more live and local. Not alive, but live and local. And remember when I said that local weather, traffic, and news were very important to the majority of regular radio listeners? This is one of the biggest use cases for Audio AI. And it may be the most natural place to start for stations to localize their content. Here are just a few of the voices and examples from some of our partners around the globe.
W legendach rocka opowiem wam o Jimim Hendrixie, gitarowym geniuszu, który zrewolucjonizował świat.
Escucha Intar Radio si te quieres divertir. Si quieres bailar, baila con Intar Radio. Si quieres cantar, canta con Intar Radio.
Remember Mom's apple pie? Remember when you used to put a big scoop of vanilla on top and the creamy goodness melted in your mouth with each bite?
Kunstner Marco Evaristi planlægger en omstridt udstilling i Kødbyen i København.
Each one of those examples were scripted and voiced by AI with no human intervention. But this is one of my favorite examples. At this particular rock station, the PD used to have to voice track nights and weekends. When Futuri's audio AI freed up that time because he used AI Tori to fill those day parts, he used some of that reclaimed time to actually create a social media account, an avatar, and ongoing engagement with AI Tori. He writes all of AI Tori's social media posts, and I actually think a few young men have fallen in love with her. But she also has a bio page on the website. They talk about how she was conceived on a Dell desktop, and they gave her a trial run and overnights to see if she'd work out, and she did so well that they promoted her to nights and weekends. So they genuinely brought this day part to life. And they are very irreverent with it. They actually have pieces on air talking about, we're not worried about AI taking our jobs, using that in their sweepers.
Sometimes my core overheats, but it's nothing some cool tunes can't fix. I'm AI Tori. Just pretend I'm real and we'll get along fine. I'm your computer-generated rock goddess, bringing it hard and heavy.
So they have fun with it, they're tongue-in-cheek with it, and they brought things to life. So using AI voices where you didn't have any before can really help you localize with relevant content. And it can also create sponsorship opportunities, like maybe those weather and news segments that may not be available on a non-voiced hour or day part. You can also use the AI to create special features. So maybe entertainment segments or client local business spotlights using the AI voices. Creating a social media persona for your AI can really bring it to life. And the bottom line is, if you have a voice, not alive, but live, it creates more engagement for your audience. So hand in glove with this can be spec spots and production. And we hear in many cases, now I live in Omaha, Nebraska. Just outside of Omaha, in some of the rural areas, the cow-to-person ratio is inverse. And in many cases, they can't find people to voice their commercials. I've talked, though, with markets as large as Tampa, Florida, which is not a small market, that will say to me, my voice library is me and whatever salesperson is walking past the booth when I'm trying to produce something. This is something that can create variety for you. But here's the other thing. Salespeople without a device like this often write their own spec spots. Some of the worst ads in history have been written by salespeople because they're not script writers. And the other worst ads are like that car dealer that has the 5-year-old that insists that it's in every ad, but that's a completely other conversation. But here's the reason that salespeople will often resort to writing their own ads. Our producers are overwhelmed with workload. And we hear frequently that it can take as much as an hour to produce, reproduce, script, rescript one single concept for a client. Our goal with this is to free up that time so that your producers can do better work. So here's one of our platforms. We were among the first to launch AI spot production with Spot On, and we've enhanced a number of features since we launched it 2 years ago. First of all, we have speech-to-speech. And this is where the ad can sound exactly the way you want it to sound because you voice it and then use a different voice. So if I need it to have certain highs and lows and a particular cadence, I read it the way I hear it, and a male voice does it instead of my voice in that particular case. We also have Clone It, and here's one of the biggest reasons why we did it. Have you ever had the car dealer that calls you in a panic because their inventory changed at the last minute and they have to have you drop everything and get to the studio and please see me right now? Stop the madness. Clone their voice, and then it's available for you to do those updates as quickly as they need to have it done. You can also upload your client's musical image or jingles for full production. And in fact, we're just wrapping up a beta with vCreative so that once your project is complete and spot on, it will automatically export to vCreative. It's one of the many ways that we're trying to reduce swivel chair and make it easier to accomplish what you need to in a day. One of my favorite uses of Spot On is for A/B testing. To be able to share with clients different concepts, different scripts, different voices to engage them and bring them into the conversation.
Kids do the funniest things, but when they aren't their normal, wild, wonderful, spinning around on the spot and diving off the sofa selves, you know something's not right. Calpol is here to help relieve pain and reduce high temperatures to help...
Psst. Have you heard? Bourjois is back in the UK and exclusive to Superdrug. So treat yourself with irresistible sorbet shades with the...
So now you could bring two completely different concepts to the client and let them start weighing in on it. One of the ways that our clients are using Spot On incredibly effectively, though, is initial outreach. They're using spec spots to get the first appointment. In fact, we're hearing a 40% lift in first-time appointment setting using this creative to reach out to the client from the outset. So if you give your producers just 10 extra hours of valuable time back per week, they could make better ads for your best clients. The jingling car keys, the start of the ignition, the revving of the engine, you get the picture. Your very best clients could have their time devoted to that kind of content. Now, their freed up time could also be devoted to using some of those custom, or creating some of those custom videos for your clients. They could also take that time to produce sponsorable original podcast content. Maybe the hidden gems of Athens, maybe fashion podcasts. You dream it up, they can do it because now they have more time on their hands. And they could take some of that time and produce advertorials for clients. But doesn't this start to feel more rewarding than if you were having to just do rip and reads throughout the day? Our vote is yes. Now, some in this industry still view AI with some skepticism.
Amelia, turn off alarm. Amelia, weather?
70 degrees and sunny today.
Amelia, unlock the door.
I'm afraid I can't do that, Jen.
Why not?
Did you forget something?
My protein shake.
The future isn't scary.
So for those of us that are not quite ready for AI, that's where Tether can come in and fill your unmanned day parts with voting sessions and with automated features that allow you to let the listener know when their favorite songs are going to play. So it's a feature that we've had for the beginning of the company. I'm running short on time, so I can share more about it towards the end. But hopefully what you've seen with this presentation is that when you use AI and technology to work with human beings, you can create true localism. Ideally, we can flip that script and go from process to creativity more and more in our daily lives, now and into the future, or the futuri as the case may be. But I'll leave you with one last thing on a personal note, and I'll take you back to the beginning of our conversation. With all the noise that surrounds us, how can we know what we actually think when all we have is other people's thoughts in our heads all day long? My challenge to you is this: turn it off. Just for 10 minutes a day, find time to reflect and think your own thoughts. And if our technology can help you do that, so much the better. There's a QR code here if you'd like to know more. I will be around afterwards as well. I thank you very much for your time, and with that, I'll turn it over to Nessa.
Thanks a million. Thank you so much. You made me laugh when you were talking about salespeople. Anything that will help get better commercial scripts on air is good as far as I'm concerned. And that's as a former programmer. Does anybody have any questions for Erin? I know we're kind of a little bit close to the time for a session break. But if you do have any questions, Erin is here and she'll be around and in the exhibition area for the rest of the conference. I want to thank her for that really informative and fun session. And AI is nothing to be afraid of. We just need to learn how to use it instead of letting it use us, right? We're going to take a short break and we will be back in this room in about 15 minutes, or you're free to go to the other tracks. I hope you enjoyed the session, and thanks again, Erin.